My name is Seraphina. I'm 28, and last Thanksgiving changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. When my parents told me to skip dinner this year because they needed space, I thought it was about my recent divorce. I had no idea they were hiding a secret that would destroy our family forever and reveal the shocking truth about why I was never really welcome at their table. What I discovered that November day didn't just expose their betrayal, it gave me the perfect revenge that would make them beg for the forgiveness they never deserved. Hey everyone, before we dive into this absolutely wild family drama, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments because this story is going to take us on an emotional roller coaster that I guarantee will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. If you're ready for a Thanksgiving tale that'll make your family drama look like a peaceful dinner party, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because trust me, you're going to want to see how this story of betrayal, secrets, and the sweetest revenge unfolds. Now let's get into this mess. Growing up, I was the poster child for the perfect daughter. Straight A's debate team captain, full scholarship to Northwestern, and a career in marketing that my parents loved to brag about at their country club. But there was always something off about our family dynamic that I couldn't quite put my finger on. My younger brother Marcus got away with everything: failed classes, crashed cars, even a DUI at 19, while I faced criticism for the smallest imperfections. My parents, Richard and Patricia Whitmore, were pillars of our suburban Chicago community. Dad ran a successful accounting firm, Mom chaired the hospital fundraising committee, and their marriage was supposedly the envy of their social circle. They lived in a pristine colonial house with perfectly manicured lawns, hosted elaborate dinner parties, and maintained an image of familial perfection that I helped create and maintain without question. The cracks started showing during my marriage to David, a wonderful man who worked as a pediatric nurse. My parents never openly disapproved, but their passive-aggressive comments were constant. "Couldn't you have found someone more ambitious?" Mom would ask. "Nursing is such a nurturing profession for a man," Dad would add with that condescending smile. When David and I struggled with infertility for 3 years, they suggested maybe it was for the best, given our financial situation. When our marriage finally ended, not because we stopped loving each other, but because the stress of fertility treatments and my parents' constant undermining created a wedge we couldn't bridge, I expected support. Instead, I got lectures about making better choices and thinking things through. The divorce finalized in September, and by October, the holiday planning conversations began. Every year, Thanksgiving was Patricia's masterpiece. She'd start planning in August, ordering specialty ingredients, polishing silver, and creating elaborate seating charts for 30-plus guests. I'd always been her right hand, arriving Wednesday night to help with prep work, staying late Friday to clean up. It was our tradition, our bonding time, or so I thought. This year felt different from the start. When I called in early October to ask about menu planning, Mom seemed distracted, almost annoyed. "Oh, we're keeping it small this year," she said vaguely. "Just immediate family." That should have included me, but when I asked about timing and what I could bring, she said they'd let me know. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, the call came. I was at my new apartment, a cozy place I'd decorated exactly how I wanted for the first time in my adult life, when Dad called. His voice had that careful, practiced tone he used for difficult clients. "Seraphina, honey, about Thanksgiving. Your mother and I have been talking, and we think it might be best if you skip this year. You've been through so much with the divorce, and we just think you need some space to heal. Plus, we're having Patricia's sister's family, and you know how crowded it gets." The words hit me like a physical blow. In 28 years, I had never missed a family Thanksgiving. Even during college, I'd flown home every year. When I was married, David and I alternated between families, but I still made it to at least part of the Whitmore celebration. "Dad, I don't understand. What do you mean space? I'm fine." "I want to be there. Seraphina, please don't make this difficult. Your mother has enough stress with everything she's planning." Maybe next year things will be different. The conversation lasted another 10 minutes, but nothing changed. They were uninviting me from Thanksgiving, and no amount of pleading or reasoning would change their minds. When I hung up, I sat in my empty apartment and cried for the first time since my divorce was finalized. But as the tears dried, something else grew in their place: determination. If my parents wanted space, I'd give them space. But I wasn't going to spend Thanksgiving alone feeling sorry for myself. I was going to show them exactly what they were missing. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. If my biological family didn't want me, I'd create my own. I started reaching out to friends, colleagues, and neighbors, people who had become important to me but whom I'd often neglected because of family obligations. First, I called my best friend from college, Maya, who was a teacher living alone in the city. Her family lived in California and she couldn't afford to fly home this year. When I told her about my parents' rejection, she was furious on my behalf. "Are you kidding me? After everything you've done for them, Sarah, you deserve so much better than that." Then I reached out to my downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly widow whose children lived overseas. She'd been helping me settle into the building, bringing me homemade soup, and offering to water my plants. When I invited her to Thanksgiving dinner, her face lit up like Christmas morning. My coworker James, a brilliant graphic designer who was estranged from his homophobic family, practically cried when I asked him to join us. My divorce attorney, Sarah, who had become a friend during the proceedings, jumped at the chance to avoid her own dysfunctional family gathering. David, my ex-husband, was the hardest call to make. Our divorce had been amicable, but we'd been avoiding each other to allow healing space. When I explained what my parents had done, he was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, I always wondered why they treated you the way they did. You bent over backward for them and they never seemed to appreciate it." "Of course I'll come. We're still friends, and friends don't let friends spend holidays alone." Within a week, I had 8 people confirmed for my alternative Thanksgiving. But I wasn't just planning a dinner, I was planning a statement. I researched recipes from everyone's cultural backgrounds, creating a menu that celebrated the diversity my parents always claimed to value but never actually embraced. Maya's grandmother's tamales, Mrs. Chen's Chinese-style roasted duck, James's family mac and cheese recipe that he'd perfected despite their rejections, Sarah's Irish soda bread. I spent my savings on the best ingredients I could find, ordered flowers, and even bought new dishes because I wanted everything to be perfect. This wasn't about showing off, it was about creating the warm, inclusive celebration I'd always wanted our family gatherings to be. The week before Thanksgiving, I posted carefully curated photos on social media showing my dinner preparations. Nothing obvious or petty, just beautiful shots of food prep and table setting with captions about gratitude and chosen family. I made sure my privacy settings would let my parents see everything. Mom called 2 days before Thanksgiving. "Seraphina, I saw your posts. Are you having people over? I thought you were using this time to heal and reflect." "I am healing, Mom. I'm learning what real family feels like." The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, she said, "Well, I hope you have a nice time," in a tone that suggested she hoped the opposite. "Thanks, Mom. I'm sure I will. Give my regards to Aunt Linda's family." What I didn't tell her was that I'd been doing some research of my own. Something about their excuse hadn't felt right, and a casual conversation with my cousin had revealed that Aunt Linda's family was actually going to her in-laws this year, something my parents should have known. So who exactly was coming to their crowded dinner that required my absence? The answer would shock me more than I ever could have imagined. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and drizzly, but my apartment was warm with the smell of cooking food and the sound of laughter. Maya had arrived early to help with prep, and we were having the best time cooking together, sharing stories, and building something beautiful from scratch. Around noon, while Maya was checking on the duck and I was preparing appetizers, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey Sarah, this is Brandon Marcus's friend from high school." I saw your Thanksgiving posts and wanted to reach out. There's something you should know about what's really happening at your parents' house today. Can you call me Brandon Miller? I remembered him a sweet kid who'd been close to my brother during their senior year before Marcus went to college and seemingly dropped all his high school friendships. I hadn't thought about Brandon in years, but something in his message made my stomach clench with anxiety. I stepped into my bedroom and called him back immediately. Sierra, I'm so sorry to be the one telling you this, but I've been wrestling with it all week. I work for a catering company now, and we're doing your parents' Thanksgiving dinner today. When I saw the guest list and realized you weren't on it, I had to say something. My hands started shaking. What guest list, Brandon, Sarah? They're having 32 people over. It's not a small family gathering. It's their biggest Thanksgiving ever. They hired us because your mom said it was too much for her to handle alone this year. The room started spinning. 32 people. Not small. Not crowded because of Aunt Linda's family. They'd lied to me completely. Brandon, who's on the guest list, what he told me next shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. The guest list included both sides of my extended family, plus family friends, neighbors, and business associates. But there was one name that made everything click into place with horrifying clarity. Jessica Morrison, age 28, listed as Richard's daughter. Brandon, are you sure about that name, Jessica Morrison? Yeah, I'm sure. She's listed right under Marcus as immediate family. Sarah, I thought you knew. I thought maybe there was some family drama I didn't understand. But when I saw your posts about chosen family and realized you weren't invited, I had to call. I need everyone to pause with me for a moment because what I'm about to tell you next is going to change everything you think you know about my story. The betrayal I'm about to uncover isn't just about Thanksgiving dinner, it's about my entire existence. If you think this is wild already, trust me, we're just getting started. The revenge that's coming is going to be absolutely perfect, but first, you need to understand the full scope of what my parents had been hiding from me my entire life. Stay with me, because this gets so much worse before it gets better. After I hung up with Brandon, I sat on my bed trying to process what I'd just learned. Jessica Morrison, 28 years old, listed as my father's daughter. The same age as me, bearing my father's last name before he married my mother. Which meant I grabbed my laptop and started searching. Social media, public records, anything I could find. Within an hour, I had pieced together a story that explained every single moment of feeling like an outsider in my own family. Jessica Morrison lived in Phoenix with her mother Linda Morrison, who had never been married. She worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative, had graduated from ASU with a business degree, and according to her, LinkedIn had been financially supported through college by family contributions. Her photos showed a woman who looked disturbingly similar to me, with the same dark hair, the same blue eyes, the same smile. More searching revealed the devastating timeline. Jessica was born in February, exactly 9 months after my parents' wedding anniversary trip to Las Vegas. The same trip where I was supposedly conceived according to family lore. But the real bombshell came when I found an old news article from Phoenix about a charity fundraiser. There was Jessica standing next to an older woman identified as her mother, Linda Morrison. The article mentioned that Linda had moved to Phoenix in 1995 when Jessica was 2 years old following a difficult period in her life. The year my family moved from Chicago to our current suburb. The year my father changed accounting firms and my mother started becoming obsessive about our family's reputation. The pieces fell together with sickening clarity. My father had had an affair. Jessica was his daughter, his oldest daughter. And somehow my parents had not only maintained a relationship with her but had been supporting her financially while treating me like an inconvenience. I spent the rest of the afternoon digging deeper, finding more evidence. Property records showed my father owned a condo in Phoenix that he rented out for suspiciously low amounts. Tax records I could access through public databases showed regular large transfers to Arizona. Even more damaging, I found social media photos going back years showing Jessica at graduations, celebrations, and holidays with my parents in the background or tagged in photos. They hadn't just been in contact with her. They'd been actively parenting her from a distance while making me feel like I was never good enough. The final piece of evidence came from Marcus's old Instagram account, which I'd never looked at carefully before. Buried in photos from 3 years ago was a picture of him at what looked like a graduation party standing with Jessica and my parents. The caption read, "Family celebrations are the best. So proud of my sister." My sister. Not family, friend, or cousin. Sister. My brother had known. They'd all known. I was the only one who'd been kept in the dark about my father's other daughter, the daughter they clearly preferred. By evening, my Thanksgiving dinner was in full swing, but I was operating on autopilot. My chosen family was having a wonderful time, sharing stories, laughing, and creating exactly the kind of warm, inclusive celebration I'd always wanted. But inside, I was planning something much bigger than a successful dinner party. Maya noticed I seemed distracted and pulled me aside while others were enjoying dessert and coffee. "Sarah, what's going on? You've seemed off since this afternoon." I told her everything I'd discovered. Her face went through the same journey mine had: confusion, disbelief, and finally fury on my behalf. "They've been lying to you for your entire life," she said. "No wonder you never felt like you belonged. You were competing with a daughter they actually wanted, and you didn't even know she existed." That night, after everyone left and I was cleaning up the beautiful remnants of my alternative celebration, I made a decision. My parents wanted space. They were about to get more space than they ever imagined. But first, they were going to face the consequences of 28 years of deception. I started by documenting everything I'd found: screenshots, saved articles, copies of public records. I created a detailed timeline of their lies and Jessica's presence in their lives. Then I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I hired a private investigator. Sarah, my divorce attorney, had recommended investigators before, and I called one first thing Friday morning. I explained the situation and asked him to verify everything I'd found and dig deeper into the financial connections between my parents and Jessica, Mrs. Whitmore, he said. "I have to ask, what's your end goal here? Are you looking to expose them publicly, pursue legal action, or just understand the full scope of the deception I want them to face consequences for what they've done? They've stolen 28 years of honesty from me. They've made me question my worth, my place in the family, my entire identity. I want them to understand exactly what they've lost by choosing to lie to me instead of just being honest about Jessica's existence." "Understood. Give me 2 weeks." While I waited for the investigator's report, I started phase 1 of my planned strategic withdrawal. I stopped responding to my parents' texts immediately. I didn't call to check in or share updates about my life. When they called, I was polite but distant, giving short answers and ending conversations quickly. I also started building something new. The success of my Thanksgiving dinner had shown me what I was capable of when I wasn't trying to earn my parents' approval. I applied for a promotion at work that I'd been afraid to pursue. I started dating again. I joined a hiking group and made new friends. I began living authentically for the first time in my adult life. 2 weeks later, the investigator's report arrived, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Not only had my parents been supporting Jessica financially for decades, but they'd also been attending major life events. Her high school graduation, college graduation, and even her wedding last year, a wedding I hadn't known about, during which my parents had told me they were on a business trip. The financial support was extensive: college, tuition, rent assistance, car payments, and even a down payment on Jessica's house. Altogether, they'd given her over $400, 000, over the years, money that came from the same accounts they'd told me were tight when I needed help with my own education or when David and I struggled with medical. bills. But the most damning evidence was a series of emails between my parents discussing the situation. In one exchange from 5 years ago, my mother had written, "I know Seraphina is struggling with the fertility treatments, but we can't help her financially right now with Jessica's house down payment coming up. She'll figure it out." My father's response, "Seraphina is resilient. She doesn't need us the way Jessica does." Jessica didn't have the stable upbringing Seraphina had. The stable upbringing. They were talking about the upbringing they had provided me while secretly supporting their other daughter. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been so devastating. Armed with this evidence, I started planning phase 2, the revelation. But I wasn't going to confront them directly. I was going to let them expose themselves. Christmas was approaching, and true to form, my mother called in early December to start planning. The conversation was awkward. She was clearly trying to gauge whether I was still upset about Thanksgiving, while I was gathering intelligence about their holiday plans. "So Christmas Eve dinner will be the usual group," she said carefully. "Just immediate family and a few close friends." "Sounds nice, Mom." "The same guest list as Thanksgiving." There was a pause. Oh, Thanksgiving was different. More people than usual. Christmas will be much smaller. I see. Well, I'm actually planning to spend Christmas with friends this year. The Thanksgiving dinner I hosted went so well that several people asked if I'd do something for Christmas too. Another pause, longer this time. "Seraphina, you know you're always welcome here. If you're doing this because you're upset about Thanksgiving, I'm not upset, Mom. I'm grateful. Thanksgiving taught me a lot about family and honesty. I'm exactly where I need to be." What I didn't tell her was that I'd already put my Christmas plan into motion. Through the investigator, I'd learned that Jessica was flying in for Christmas week, staying at a hotel downtown rather than with my parents to maintain appearances. I'd also discovered that my parents had planned a second secret Christmas celebration for December 26th, specifically to include Jessica without risking exposure. But I had an ace up my sleeve that they didn't know about, Marcus. My brother had never been good at keeping secrets, and I'd noticed he'd been posting less on social media lately, presumably to avoid accidentally revealing Jessica's existence. But Marcus had one weakness, his ego. He couldn't resist showing off when he thought he was being clever. I started liking and commenting on his posts, something I'd rarely done before. I asked about his job, his girlfriend, his plans. I played the role of the caring older sister who was finally taking interest in his life after my divorce. And then casually, I started asking about the family. "I feel like I missed so much family stuff during my marriage," I texted him. "David and I were so focused on our own problems. I want to be more present now." "Yeah, that's cool. There's actually been a lot going on that you probably don't know about. Like, what I mean, just family stuff. Drama you wouldn't believe." I let him lead the conversation, asking just enough questions to keep him talking. Over several weeks, I got him to admit that there were family complications and that our parents had been dealing with some old stuff coming back up. Finally, on December 15th, he took the bait completely. "Sarah, can I ask you something? Did you ever suspect Dad might have other kids?" There it was, the opening I'd been waiting for. "What do you mean, Marcus? I mean, hypothetically, if Dad had made some mistakes when he was younger before he really committed to our family, would you be upset if you found out?" Now, I think I'd be more upset about being lied to than about the mistake itself. "Why are you asking?" "No reason. Just thinking about family stuff, you know." That night, I called Brandon at the catering company and asked him for one more favor. I wanted to hire them for a New Year's Eve party at my apartment. But more than that, I wanted to know if my parents had booked them for any more events. "Actually, yeah," he said. "They booked us for a small dinner party on December 26th. Really small, just 8 people. They were very specific about discretion and not posting any photos on our company social media." Perfect. I spent the next week planning the most important dinner party of my life. Not for New Year's Eve, that was just the cover story. I was planning a December 26th surprise that would bring this entire deception into the light. I invited everyone who mattered: Maya, David, Sarah, Mrs., Chen, and James, from my Thanksgiving celebration. But I also sent some additional invitations that my parents weren't expecting. I'd found contact information for several family, friends, and relatives who'd been at the Thanksgiving I was excluded from, and I invited them to join me for a post-Christmas celebration. The key invitation went to my cousin Rachel, Aunt Linda's daughter, who I'd stayed close with despite my parents' lies about her family's holiday plans. Rachel had always been a straight shooter, and I suspected she might know more about the family dynamics than she'd ever let on. But the most important part of my plan was the timing. I made sure my party would start at exactly the same time as my parents' secret dinner with Jessica. And I had one final surprise that would ensure the truth came out in the most devastating way possible. December 26th arrived crisp and clear, and I was ready. My apartment looked gorgeous, decorated with real evergreen garlands, twinkling lights, and a table set for 20 people. I'd spent the morning cooking dishes that meant something to me, not trying to impress anyone or maintain a perfect image. My guests started arriving at 5, just as my parents' secret dinner was beginning across town. The conversation was flowing, people were laughing, and I was documenting everything on social media with careful precision. Not to show off, but to create a timeline that would matter very soon. At 6:30, I made an announcement. Everyone, I want to thank you for being here tonight. This year has taught me so much about what family really means. You've all shown me more love and support than I could have imagined, and I'm grateful for each of you. There were smiles and nods around the room. Maya squeezed my hand, knowing what was coming next. But there's something else I want to share with you tonight. Something I recently discovered about honesty, family secrets, and the difference between the family you're born into and the family you choose. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to my TV screen. The first slide was a simple title: The Daughter They Actually Wanted. For the next 30 minutes, I presented everything I'd learned. The timeline, the financial records, the photos, the evidence of Jessica's existence, and my parents' 28 years of lies. I showed them the emails where my parents discussed not helping me because they were supporting Jessica. I showed them the photos of family celebrations I'd never been told about. The room was completely silent, except for gasps of shock and outrage. Mrs. Chen put her hand over her heart. Sarah was furious. David looked like he wanted to drive over to my parents' house immediately. But I wasn't done. The reason I'm sharing this tonight, December 26th, is because at this very moment my parents are hosting their second Christmas celebration for Jessica. The family they've chosen over the daughter who spent her entire life trying to earn their love. I pulled up the catering company's invoice, which Brandon had provided, showing the December 26th booking. Then I showed the social media evidence of Jessica being in town. I could have confronted them privately. I could have demanded explanations or apologies. But 28 years of lies and emotional manipulation don't deserve private conversations. They deserve consequences. Rachel, my cousin, was crying. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined this. Your parents always made it seem like you were the difficult one, like you chose to be distant from the family." That's when I revealed my final surprise. "Actually, Rachel, they're about to find out that I haven't been distant. I've been present in ways they never expected." I picked up my phone and opened the group text I'd created that afternoon, including my parents, Marcus, and 12 other family members who'd been at the Thanksgiving I was excluded from. The message I sent was simple: I hope everyone is enjoying their post-Christmas celebrations tonight. I've been hosting my own gathering, and we've had the most illuminating conversation about family honesty and the importance of truth. I thought you might be interested in what we discovered. Then I sent a link to a private YouTube video I'd uploaded that afternoon, a 10-minute summary of everything I'd learned about Jessica, complete with documentation and evidence. My phone started buzzing immediately. First Marcus Sarah, what the hell? Then my father, Seraphina, call me immediately. Then my mother. This is completely inappropriate. Take that video down now. But the most telling response came from my Aunt Linda. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. We all thought you knew. Within an hour, I had calls from relatives across the country. Some were outraged on my behalf. Others admitted they'd suspected something wasn't right with how my parents treated me compared to Marcus. Several revealed they'd been uncomfortable with the Thanksgiving exclusion but hadn't wanted to interfere in family business. My parents tried calling repeatedly, but I was done taking their calls on their terms. When I finally answered, my father was furious. Seraphina, how dare you embarrass us like this? You've humiliated our entire family with this public spectacle. Dad, I've told the truth. If that's embarrassing to you, maybe you should have thought about that before you spent 28 years lying to me. Jessica has nothing to do with you. She's a separate part of our lives that doesn't affect your relationship with us. She has everything to do with me. Every time you chose to support her instead of me, every time you attended her celebrations while making me feel like I wasn't enough, every time you lied about why you couldn't help me, that was about both of us. You chose her over me for my entire life, and you never even gave me the chance to know about the choice you were making. My mother got on the phone. Seraphina, we protected you from a complicated situation. We gave you a stable home and a good upbringing. We don't owe you explanations about every decision we made. You don't owe me explanations, Mom. But you've lost the right to my respect, my trust, and my presence in your lives. I hope Jessica was worth it. I hung up and turned off my phone. The rest of the evening was healing in ways I hadn't expected. My chosen family rallied around me with such fierce support that I finally understood what unconditional love felt like. They were outraged on my behalf, but more than that, they were proud of me for standing up for myself after years of accepting treatment that I never should have tolerated. Asterisk, asterisk. So here's my question for all of you watching. Have you ever experienced family karma this intense? When someone's betrayal was so deep that the universe had to step in and serve justice, I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building a life so beautiful that the people who rejected you realize exactly what they lost. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, or if you believe that chosen family can be stronger than blood family, let me know in the comments. Share your own stories of family karma and justice served. And if you think my parents got what they deserved, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and finding your real tribe. Thank you for being here with me tonight, for listening to this journey, and for reminding me that the family that matters is the one that chooses to love you unconditionally. Hit that share button if you think someone else needs to hear this message about finding their worth and their real family. Until next time, remember, blood doesn't make family, love, respect, and honesty do. Asterisk, asterisk. In the weeks that followed, the consequences of my revelation rippled through our extended family and social circle. Several relatives cut contact with my parents, disgusted by their decades of deception. Their country club friends began asking uncomfortable questions about family values and honesty. My father's accounting firm lost 3 major clients who felt they couldn't trust someone who'd been living a double life. Most importantly, I was free from the weight of trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given, free from the confusion of never understanding why I wasn't enough, free to build a life with people who chose me just as I was. My parents sent letters, emails, and even had Marcus try to mediate. They wanted to work things out and move past this misunderstanding. But there was no misunderstanding. There was only 28 years of calculated deception that had shaped my entire sense of self-worth. I never did meet Jessica, though I heard through family that she was mortified by the situation and had stopped accepting financial support from my parents. I hope she finds her own path forward, one that doesn't require maintaining family secrets. As for me, I got that promotion at work. I started traveling and trying new things. I even began dating again, but this time with the confidence of someone who knew her worth wasn't dependent on other people's approval. The best revenge wasn't destroying my parents' lives, it was building a life so full of authentic love and joy that their rejection became irrelevant. They wanted space from me, they got it permanently. And in that space, I discovered who I really was when I wasn't trying to be the daughter they wanted. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are. My parents showed me they were people who could maintain a decades-long deception rather than have an honest conversation about a complicated situation. They showed me they valued their reputation more than their relationship with me. They showed me that their love came with conditions I was never going to be able to meet. But my chosen family showed me something different. They showed me that real family celebrates your successes, supports you through failures, and never makes you wonder if you belong at their table. That's the kind of family I choose to invest in now. And every holiday since has been exactly what I always dreamed family celebrations could be: honest, joyful, and filled with people who are genuinely happy I'm there.